right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the future of food and beverage, transforming menus with data. I am Leanne Zinsmeister. I'm the managing editor of Nation's Restaurant News, and I'm joined today by a wonderful panel. We have Emily Tang here, the SVP of Product at Datassential. Jessica Sattler, the Senior Director of Insights at Dutch Bros, and Debbie Beisswanger, SVP of Brand Marketing at Dutch Bros. Thank you all for joining me here today.
Hi. Thanks, Dan.
Let's get into it. We've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Emily, I want to start with you. As SVP of Product at Datassential, you are at the forefront of helping restaurant brands innovate. How have you seen the role of data evolve in shaping food and beverage trends over the last few years?
Yeah, so I've been at Datassential for 20 years now. So I've really gotten a front row seat for seeing how data has revolutionized the speed of food and beverage innovation. I mean, tracking trends has always sort of been a combination of art and science, but while this used to be a fairly painstaking process, the science part has gotten much faster. And so with more advanced AI, we can really predict trends with incredible accuracy, which in turn empowers our customers to act more quickly and stay ahead of the curve.
Excellent. Jessica, in your role, can you share a bit about how data and consumer insights are shaping the way that Dutch Bros develops its menu and its seasonal offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll piggyback a little bit off what Emily mentioned. We definitely have an art and science approach here at Dutch, and we are using several different sources that we have access to, whether it's third party, trend data, our own consumer panels, to try to gather ideas and really test and refine concepts as we're developing them. But we also find that it's incredibly important to leverage our broistas and our crew out in the field for feedback and ideas as well. We also have an internal team of people who are very involved, but really we're finding that bringing all these data points together is really helping us to create great products. We're very much focused on our seasonal LTOs as we aren't making as many of the permanent menu changes. So that's really where our energy is. But we just find that we need data from people who are boots on the ground, talking to our customers every day, as well as more sophisticated trend data that we're working with Datassentials to get, but really just bringing that all together. And then depending on the product, we also will leverage in-market testing if there's something really unique or operationally new. And so that plays a part in the process as well.
Debbie, can you share a specific example of a menu item that came out of data insights?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually we're in the middle of our holiday LTO right now, but we wrapped our fall LTO a month or so ago. And one of our biggest hits that came out of that was our cookie butter latte, which honestly, when you hear it, you think, why do I need any data? This sounds delicious and amazing. But what the process we went through was, we looked through we have tons of ideas, right? Lots of things we could do, lots of things that sound great. We look at the trends data from Datassentials and saw obviously cookie butter was just a trending and up and coming flavor when we looked where it is on the MAC chart. And we put that concept alongside a ton of other ideas that we had, as well as some of our own historical bestsellers. So we understood to benchmark the performance and concept testing and how it would do. And honestly, it blew it off the charts. It was one of the stronger performers for us in pre-market concept testing, especially with our demographic. We always really like to make sure we're looking at how does it perform against the consumer we're hoping to delight, not just in general market, because that's really who we want to delight. And then from there, really our R&D team does their thing, right? They figure out how to source it. They figure out how to make it. We figure out how to educate the broista on how to make it consistently and deliciously every single time.
And sticking with you, Debbie, what are some of the biggest hurdles that Dutch Bros and maybe other restaurants also face when they're coming up with new menu concepts? And how can you use data to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think like anyone else, and probably one of the biggest challenges we face, and I mentioned it earlier, is prioritization of great ideas, right? There's no shortage of good ideas. There's more good than bad, and all of them could have merit in their own right. And what we really have to always keep our mind on is the experience our customers have with the barista at the window. Whatever we push to the shops to execute, we need to make sure they feel confident executing with excellence. And if you think about all the things that they have to worry about and the share of mind that a new drink build has within what it takes to run a shop every day, it has to be easy. It has to fit within the system that we run so that they can make it well and delight the customer every time. I would say in terms of data and how we're using data, we use it in a couple different phases. Before we ever launch anything, I mentioned a little bit before about how we use concept testing. That's a huge part of how we vet ideas before we ever put it in front of a customer. We get some great insight, what's working, what's not. We also bring in every quarter a panel of our broistas to our office and actually review the upcoming innovation ideas with them to get some feedback. We also ping operators in the field, and just like a lot of the great ideas really come from the field, and they're able to flag things way before we ever do in terms of what would work great and not so great about that idea. Depending on the initiative, we'll do in-market testing as well, as Jessica talked about. So we'll actually put a product live in a handful of shops and we'll run consumers through it. We'll survey the consumers. We'll survey the shop, importantly. If there's operational things that we didn't catch or think about, it's really good to know that when you're in 10 shops and not 1,000. So that's a huge part of it as well. And then from a post-launch standpoint, data plays a huge role also. And some of it's more qual and some of it's more quant. We'll look at in-market data from Datassential, certainly to understand the performance and how does it stack rank to some other products that are out there. But also we survey our customers who purchase our LTOs to understand, did they like the taste? Did they like the flavor? What was their experience like? And then really, really importantly, we have a huge beat on social media input and customer experience outreach to our call center. We really get a ton of insight of what's working and what's not proactively from our customers, like I'm sure a lot of folks do. And don't discount that, because there is a ton of very, very helpful insights sitting in your inbox and your DMs that really pay attention to and aggregate the themes from.
Totally. Emily, how does Datassential collaborate with your partners, such as Dutch Bros, to create actionable strategies from your data insights? Again, like what are some other ways that they can use your data to overcome these challenges that Debbie's talking about?
Yeah. So to sort of go back to Debbie's point about concept testing, we really at Datassential like to offer data and analytics with as much context as possible. So we want to help our partners understand the insights are not just a number here on the screen. So for example, in concept testing, while of course we certainly help you test your concept, we also provide consumer ratings on every in-market LTO and seasonal menu item across hundreds of top chains. So this really does two things. First, it helps our partners first to like identify what resonates and what doesn't, like even before testing, ahead of testing. But secondly, and maybe more importantly, honestly, is that this allows for benchmarking. So our partners like Dutch Bros can benchmark their ideas, not against other ideas, but against other items that have actually already made it into market. So ostensibly items that have been vetted and tested before they hit the market. Now you're sort of testing at a higher bar. So it's really gold standard testing, which means that if your concept tests well versus these live in-market benchmarks, then you can be more confident of its eventual success. I mean, of course, it's still dependent on everything else Debbie said, like in-market testing and taste testing and all these other things and marketing and pricing and promotional efforts, of course. But from a pure idea standpoint, this sort of gold standard testing approach really helps you to feel more confident to get into that in-store testing piece of it. Yeah, so as it relates to all of the post-launch data, I know, Debbie, you went into some of that, but do you have other types of data that you consider after you launch an item?
Yeah, I'll take this one. And actually, we spend a lot of time combing through all of our data sources. So, like Debbie mentioned, we're keeping a close eye on social and customer experience. But probably what is most important is our financial performance. And so, my team is looking very closely each day at how these items are selling and how it compares to other similar items in the same season last year or previous year season as well. But we're also using our internal panel and really getting some good, rich customer data from people who have actually purchased it and want to tell us more. But, like we said, there's just a lot of ways we can summarize it, and then we really try to put it all together and have one conclusion in the end.
So I want to talk about AI real quick because Emily mentioned it at the beginning. Obviously, generative AI is revolutionizing every industry. Emily, how is Datassential leveraging this new technology to speed up ideation and enhance concept testing?
Sure. Well, to start, I should probably share what makes Datassential's AI so unique. Since we've been tracking menus for so long, we're kind of in this unique position of we have more than 20 years of historical menu data across millions and millions of menu items. So this foundation is really the key to what powers our AI. We feed the AI with cleaned, vetted, super accurate training data. And so because of this, we're able to forecast menu penetration with incredible accuracy. We're minimum 98% accuracy across the data set, oftentimes upwards of that. And we predict menu penetration 4 years into the future. So specifically, as it relates to concept ideation, what we do is we pair that menu data and all of those predictions with a ton of consumer and operator data. And that helps us to create this very comprehensive view of the food and beverage landscape. And that in turn allows us to use AI to actually generate like targeted idea starters for new concepts. And on top of that, we've even integrated image generation. So customers can now actually visualize their ideas and these new concepts during the ideation phase. And so again, this is all about speeding up the creative process, but it also just really enhances the ability to refine concepts ahead of testing.
That's great. And is there anything in particular you do to make sure that the AI-driven insights are trustworthy for your clients?
So unlike free AI tools that everybody can access, those tools pull data from across the internet, from anywhere. But our AI is proprietary and it's trained exclusively on food and beverage data. And again, it's all data that we have over the years very thoroughly vetted and cleaned. And so this really does help to ensure that any insights we generate are accurate, reliable, and more importantly, tailored specifically for food and beverage trends. So that sort of helps to ensure that everybody can be really confident in what we're putting out.
Next, I want to talk about consumer feedback and refinement, which I know is critical because it's come up in almost every answer so far. So let's get into it specifically. Debbie, what role does consumer feedback play in product development, and how do you market items that are new or in test? And then how do you balance that sort of data with creativity that goes into culinary projects?
Yeah, I mean, for us, consumer feedback is really at the heart of what we do, and that's with consumers who are purchasing our products, as well as with our broistas who are making the products. They are consumers as well, and so it's really important for us to include them in the process. And what I would say is, a lot of times we have to remind ourselves we are not always the consumer. As much as I wish I was sort of a hip, younger version of myself, I am not always the consumer of these products. And so if I like it, that doesn't necessarily mean that our customer and our broistas will like it. And so for us, it's important to marry data with kind of the gut and the insight that comes from years and years of experience of these folks in our shops. In terms of how we market our products, our customer is highly digitally engaged. That's really their bread and butter, where they spend their time on social media and in digital channels. And so our marketing plans typically reflect that. Yes, we have the same like sort of signage that you would expect in any shop to make sure that we drive awareness of our LTOs and our key features. But overall, where we spend the lion's share of our time is in digital channels like social media, through our app, which is a huge source of interaction engagement with our customers. And then in addition to external marketing, digitally as well. So paid social and paid video as well. So that's the key focus of how we tell our customers about our new products. And, you asked a little bit about how do you balance some of that innovation and creativity with reality. I would say for us, like that is an important and constant balance we're trying to strike. And I'm sure anybody who sits in our positions at other brands feels the same way, right? What sounds like a great idea in a conference room may not be a great idea in reality. And so we're constantly trying to balance things that we think are interesting and unique with things that can actually be executed. And is there sort of a piece of an idea that could still be executed that may not be ideal state, but is a version of it that we can make great every single time for our customer? We work extremely closely with our vendors to do this. Our R&D team is fantastic, and they basically will take an idea that we have and figure out a couple of different ways that we could come at it. And that helps us to inform what's the best way to bring it forward to the shops and to the customers. And then from there, we also, like I said, get feedback from broistas. And a lot of times it's not uncommon for us to take multiple toppings or multiple flavor combinations to them and have them help us narrow it down to what makes the most sense for the shop. And when we can do that, like the customer wins. And so that's really our overall approach.
Jessica, could you share an example of how feedback has significantly influenced a concept or a product at Dutch Bros?
Sure. I think we actually have like a very timely example from an item we launched earlier this summer. It was a blended sherbet energy drink, or Rebel as we call it. And it had a new ingredient in it, sweet cream, which was new to Dutch. And we were super excited about it. And in our first iteration, it was this beautifully blended, layered looking drink that everyone loved. It tasted great and it looked amazing. But as we worked through the process, it was definitely one of those moments where our operations team said, I think this is beautiful. I think it tastes great. I don't know that we can execute this consistently in every shop every time. We need to find a different way to achieve the results we're looking for. And so it was a lot of back and forth and trying different ideas and ways we could use the skills and the knowledge that the broistas have today and just tweak it a little bit. So we were really excited because the end product, it looked great. Maybe it wasn't that like extra perfect version that we originally started with, but it still looks amazing. Customers loved it. It was incredibly successful. So I think it was just a great example of, we saw the data. We knew that this product was going to do well. We wanted this certain visual appearance. How could we get there? How could we still achieve what we want, but make it so that it's consistent? Because that is super important, is that the customers are going to love it and they get the same drink at every shop across the system. So definitely a great product. And we were just really excited by the success of it all.
That sounds delicious. Emily, how does Datassential empower your operator partners to collect actionable consumer feedback that aligns with their targeting strategies and enhances them?
Yeah, so we really try to help our partners by providing actionable consumer feedback at every stage of innovation. So during discovery and exploration, we offer insights into which new ingredients and flavors consumers are most familiar with or interested in. And that really helps to point them in the direction of where to start brainstorming on specific ideas. And then once an idea starts to form, that's when we deliver real-time consumer feedback on the idea itself. So from specific ingredient choices to descriptive terms, and then we help test the idea with consumer concept testing. And then even outside of that or beyond that, for the top 250 or so chains, we provide brand level consumer feedback for hundreds of metrics. to really help the operators understand how consumers perceive their brand generally from a high level. And that way they can understand how best to position new ideas that are coming to the menu from the innovations.
Debbie, what are some unexpected consumer insights that you found in your data, and how does that impact menu development and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, we use a lot of sources when we're putting together our menu items, and a lot of them come from some of the tools that Emily talked about. But probably when you ask about unexpected sources, one would be just our own data from our customers, right? And it may not sound super unexpected, but some of your biggest ideas can come from right underneath your nose in your customer file. And one of the ones that we recently launched was our mobile order capability to, order ahead in our shops and pick up either at the drive-through or at the walk-up window. And this was probably our number one customer request that we've been getting for quite some time, honestly, that we really drove for to actually accelerate our business. So it wasn't necessarily a drink menu innovation per se, but a digital innovation that helped to reduce friction for the customer as they wanted to enjoy Dutch more often. I would say the other place we draw inspiration from is pop culture. Our brand is young. It's a hip brand, and we actually draw a lot of inspiration from social media. So another recent example, this is not a drink either, but it's a merchandise item that we gave away with a drink. Called our Passenger Princess Straw Topper. This was born from a trend that we saw in social media of passenger princesses, right? These are people living their best life in the passenger seat, picking the music, picking the snacks, like getting driven around like a passenger princess. And we thought, oh my gosh, there is no better trend for a brand that is so heavy car driven and drive-through driven than us. And so we took that inspiration and we made like a cute little straw topper crown on top of a Dutch Bros cup. And we gave it away. We saw hundreds of thousands of people take us up on this across our chain, and just saw incredible pickup in social media as well. So not even a drink, but just taking a trend from pop culture and bringing it into the experience in the shop. And probably the third area that we look to that might seem a little unexpected or non-traditional is mixology. Obviously, we serve non-alcoholic drinks at Dutch Bros, but there's a lot of great trends you can draw from in that space, whether it's flavor combinations, toppings, or treatments of the drink that kind of make it look visually interesting that we try to draw from and make it in a Dutch-friendly way. So those are a couple of ways that we take kind of a little different feedback and bring it to life with drinks and frankly with other elements of our customer experience. And I guess, Emily, I'm curious, that's how we draw trends. That's what we look at Dutch Bros, but I'm curious how companies, can leverage those food and beverage trends, to stay ahead and keep their menus fresh and be competitive.
Yeah. So I feel like, well, all of our partners, they all want to be aware of, all the latest trends out there. One of the best ways to really leverage our data is for operators to really hone in on where on the trend curve they want to be. So I think you mentioned our MAC charts earlier. This is Datassential's paradigm for classifying where trends are in their overall life cycle. So to really leverage that, I feel like brands should decide where they feel their brand is best represented ahead of utilizing all the data. So meaning, like, are they really wanting to be known for progressiveness and innovation, or are they really more comfortable with safer experimentation, meaning like classics with a twist? And so once brands feel comfortable knowing where they want to be on that curve, then they can really start to dig in and get more specific on ideas.
And just for clarity's sake, Emily, in case any of our viewers aren't sure, can you briefly explain what MAC stands for and how that cycle works?
Yeah, so it's called the Menu Adoption Curve, MAC for short. And so we classify our food trends, foods, flavors, ingredients for foods and beverages across 4 primary stages. So inception as the really progressive foods and flavors. And then we move, and those are things that are really niche, really at high-end restaurants, really ahead of the curve. Then we move into adoption. That's where we start to see some of these flavors trickling into still trendy, but like fast casual joints. And then we move further into proliferation. This is where trends start kind of blowing up there everywhere. And finally, we're in ubiquity. This is when trends are at their most mature. They are still trendy, so to speak, but they're really all over on everything from QSR menus to found in the grocery store aisles. And so that's really how we think of the curve. And to be clear, not every food or flavor gets to every stage of the curve. Some things stop at inception. Some things never get farther than the super uber progressive fancy places. And some things make it all the way. And so here we're talking about truffle oil or chipotle as a flavor. These sorts of things make it all the way to ubiquity. And so they're everywhere. And it's really fun to see how trends move through that life cycle.
Awesome. Jessica, what is the most exciting innovation that you see on the horizon for food and beverage in the next, say, 5 years?
Yeah, I think what's really exciting is Gen Z and Alpha. They want something unlike any other generation before. They're very adventurous. They want fun flavors, global flavors. So I don't necessarily have like a specific drink or category that comes to mind, but just like new levels of exploration. And I think it'll make for really fun, exotic combinations, toppings, just things we've never seen before. And that's what they want. They're super eager and excited. So the days of the boring, just like basic burger, drink, whatever it is, are gone. And they definitely want something really, really fun.
And I could say all of our data concurs with everything you just said, 100%.
That's what we like to hear. And Emily, how do you think that AI and data will continue to redefine the relationship between operators and consumers?
Yeah, I really think AI and data in general will just keep bringing operators and consumers closer together. Like, I think that it will continue to get us more personalized insights, more hyper regional trends, more specific demographic and sub-demographic insights and preferences. I really think of it as a deeper understanding of the thinner slices of the picture as we move into the future. And just like as I mentioned earlier, I really think that as AI gets faster and more powerful, we're just going to keep getting insights faster. We're just going to keep making it easier for operators to pivot and keep staying ahead and keep responding faster to what consumers really are looking for.
For sure. Jessica, what is some advice that you would give to restaurant brands who are looking to adopt a more data-driven approach to menu and product innovation?
Sure. This question feels like very timely for Dutch Bros. I think 2 years ago, we really just didn't even have a dedicated insights and analytics function for the product development cycle. So we've really built this up over the last year and a half. And so we started with just utilizing what we had. We had some sales data, we had a few tools at our fingertips, but we worked with our vendor partners to utilize what they had. Now we're further refining our process and where data comes in at each point. We subscribe to additional products. We continue to find new trend data using many of the tools from Datassential as well, throughout our entire process. So that's really on the insight side. But I think for me, probably my advice is you really have to know your audience, and you have to make sure that the data and insights that you're presenting, whether it's to leadership or cross-functional partners, is in a digestible way for them. So thinking back to when we started, and our team just wasn't as used to some of the more deeper data and even some of the terminology. And so we really had to bring them along and make sure we were speaking in a way that they could understand, and not walk in and talk about the statistical significance at a 95% confidence. Like, people just won't be with you. And so just really making sure that that's along the way. And so we've adapted our process, found places to insert more data, make sure that the right audiences are there and participating. And so that's been great. And like we've mentioned many times, like, this isn't just a office function. We are bringing people from the field, our broistas, our crews. So really just making sure you can take advantage of everything you have available. It's not just fancy, sophisticated tools. Like, people want to tell you what they think. And so take that opportunity as well.
Debbie, if there is one thing that every operator should start doing today in order to stay competitive, what would you say that thing is?
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about this a lot because, it can be really tempting, I think, in this industry, and really, frankly, in business, to look at what your competitors are doing and in an attempt to stay competitive, follow them, right? Like, oh, they launched this, we should launch something like this. And I think the thing that we always talk about at Dutch Bros is what makes Dutch Dutch is what we need to focus on. So who is our customer, right? Who is actually the core audience we're trying to delight, and how do we design for them? In any research that we do, we need to look at that audience and what do they think about it, not just what the entire population thinks about it, but also how do we do it in a way that only we can deliver. So I would tell other operators, like, know what your secret sauce is and know who your customer is and drive that. For us, that's our younger consumer, our Gen Z, Gen Alpha. And for us, our secret sauce is our people, our broistas. And so every time we think about being competitive, it's about how can we bring something to market that delights that audience, that our broistas can execute, and actually love, not just can execute, love to execute and love to delight the customer with. And that's how we think about it.
And to wrap us up here, Emily, what is one surprising way that you've seen data or AI transform the way that restaurants approach menu and product innovation?
Yeah, so I've actually seen an interesting, unexpected use of the AI features in our concept ideation solution. When we first built it, we really focused on getting the data right, making sure that our predictions were accurate, making sure that we had easily digestible insights and AI-driven outputs. But then we sort of added this image generation piece. We thought it'd be great to support concept testing. So we thought you'd spend all this time building a concept, and then you could put together a little image and throw it into concept testing. Turns out people started using the image generation to support testing and brainstorming. So the idea that the image really brings to life all the way that the descriptions and the naming of the product, they don't, just the words themselves on their own don't really bring it to life as much as an image does. And so the image really helps teams to refine their concepts early on, alongside of all of the data and the predictions and whatnot. So it's been really incredible to see how much impact just a simple visual can have on the overall creative process. So that's been interesting, but also really gratifying. It's great.
That's really cool. Well, this has been a really enlightening conversation. I can't wait to watch and see how all of this changes and evolves in the future and to keep the conversation going. But thank you all, ladies, for joining me here today for this discussion. And have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.